Brand on Tour with Angelika Tauber and Katrin Hansel, the podcast where personal branding meets sports.
I really don't give a damn about motivation. Motivation is just a big lie, even in sports. I see that very often in ex-pro athletes that want to be keynote speaker, that they go on stage and they tell 1 hour their biography. I was very good because I won that, and in that race I made it like, and the word I or me is 1 million times heard. Corporates, they spend a lot of money that you come there and you tell a story. So I just ask myself, when are you a keynote speaker? How good you need to be a keynote speaker? When do we feel ready? When is the time perfect? You know, there's one crisis after the other. One thing is very, very important in our life, to be in peace with failure, because we all fail, right?
It was a big fail for me.
Feeling safe doesn't make you better, not 1%. When do you get better? When you're out of your comfort zone, when you don't feel safe, when you have to try, when it have to work. If there is no plan B, there is only the way that you go and nothing else left and right.
Welcome to Brand on Tour, the podcast about business, personal branding and sports. I'm Katrin. I'm Lika. And today we are at Donauinsel in Vienna, and our today's guest is someone who knows what it means to perform when the pressure is the highest and to rebuild when everything seems to fall apart. Clemens Doppler is one of Austria's most successful beach volleyball players, twice European champion, world championship silver medalist in front of a home crowd here at Donauinsel, multiple-time Olympian, and for many, many years one of the defining faces of beach volleyball worldwide. But his story is not only about medals, packed stadiums and unforgettable victories. It's also about 4 ACL injuries, countless hours of rehab, doubts, setbacks, and the decision to come back again and again, even stronger. Clemens made the move most athletes talk about and very few land, from 2 decades at the top of beach volleyball to a genuine second career as an entrepreneur and keynote speaker. The episode today is the operating system underneath it. Close the old door completely, commit on the why, and build the how later, and let proof, not a headline, make you the thing. Welcome, Clemens. Lovely having you.
Welcome, Clemens.
Hello, and thank you very much for a very nice intro. Hi, Katja. Hi, Lika.
Yeah, it was very impressive. It was so good.
Oh, even more impressive is Clemens' career.
Definitely. Clemens is very modest. He says, no, but it is. And we are very happy and honored to have you here. And it's also a lot of fun because we work together, we train together. It's always been in German, now it's in English, and now we will talk about you and everything that you've built. And I want to start with the clean slate, the clean cut, the clean transition that you managed to achieve that many other athletes, some of your colleagues as well, do not seem to get it right so easily. And we want to know, what is your secret? How did you manage to do it so well, so clean, from a very successful professional athlete career into something that now seems to be the top of keynote speaking in Austria, because you seem to be everywhere and really one of the drivers in business?
You said it right. It seems to be. It's not always gold what shines, and I would not put myself that high that you put me, but for me it was very important, like you said before, to have a clean cut. I didn't want to be that athlete that said I want to stop my career and 2 years later I'm here again playing some Austrian tournaments. I didn't want to do that. So for me it was very, very important to have a very clean cut, and even more important was that I can choose this cut by myself. So, Katja, you said it in the intro that I faced more than one time almost my end of the career, because I injured my knees several times. So I was very short that I had to stop because of injuries. But for me, this was and still is a very important thing in my life, that I want to define my future by myself and not from injuries, from crisis, from persons, whatever you name it. So I think that's why it was very important for me to choose the end of my career by myself, that I can choose it, that I can think a little bit ahead of it already, and not by any injury. And of course, you need to be a little bit lucky as well. But that was very important for me, and I think that defines me a little bit also now after the professional career of an athlete. In everything I do, I really would like to have ownership, and I'm not a big fan of external factors that tell me I have to do like this or I have to do it like this. I really would like to be the pilot of my decisions, of my life, and not the passenger. And I think that sport helped me a lot to also do that now in business.
And why do you think some people do not seem to be able to take ownership, or why don't they find it so important, and what benefits are in it for you in your life?
I think that's a very important thing, especially generally in life, to have ownership of the things that are important for you. And coming out of a team sport, it's very important to take ownership because beach volleyball is very special. I still don't know if it's a team sport or a single sport because you're only, you guys play as well. So I don't know how you see it. It would be interesting how you see it. But you're only the two of you at the court. You don't have a coach who can substitute you. So you have to face the challenges, to face bad times, to face, losses, whatever. And nobody helps you. Nobody comes and tell you how you should do things on the court because you are on the court. So if you don't take ownership on the court, nobody else is doing it for you. Of course, a partner can help, but you have to be able to, come out of a little bit of crisis or of injuries or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So in our sport, you cannot hide behind anything. Mm-hmm. And in business, it's very easy to hide if if you work in a corporate or if you work in a big, in a big team. There's always a place where you can hide a little bit, and you don't have it in beach volleyball. You cannot hide because everybody sees in the first second if you hide your not skills, but if you hide something where you don't feel very confident at this day, you're very exposed, and I think that helps a lot. So I never try to hide. I focus on the things I can do good, and that's also a point that helps me a lot now in business.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you just said, like, on the court, you can be exposed. When I see you now on stages, at a Keynote, for instance, you are exposed to some point as well. So what does the new crowd, the new audience you have right now asking for you or out of you, what is it requiring compared to what you had at Donauinsel, for instance, when you hit the second place in the world?
You tell me, because you also played and now you're on stages, you're also exposed.
I've never played in front of such a huge crowd, as you did.
The bigger the crowd, the easier it was for me, because you don't see the single faces. It's one big crowd. It was more special or more hard when you play in front of 30 people, because you hear the single screams, the claps, the things that talk about you. You hear it quite obvious, but when there are 15,000 people in the stadium, you don't hear that. You only hear the music, you hear the moderator, the music, whatever it is. You don't even hear your own partner anymore. So, of course, it was big, but it was not that tough. The pressure was tough that we set up for ourselves, because the World Champs at Vienna, it was a very special tournament, because 2 weeks before the tournament, I ripped part of my ligament in the knee, and I was not supposed to play there, Mm-hmm. And I think that was the secret why we performed so well, because it's the first time in our lives, Alex and I, we didn't have a result in our head that we have to achieve, because normally we always said, we want to be top 10 at least. And that time, 2017, we didn't have that, because I told him, look, I have to be happy if I survive the first set of the first game. And if you read the books about flow, it's always described when you don't have any result, when you're not super positive and not super negative, if you're just in the state of mind that let's see what happens. And I get goosebumps if I talk about that, because that was exactly that stage. We were thinking from point to point and not from game to game to game. We were just thinking about the next point. So we were so focused that even the 15,000 people in the stadium, we completely phased out. And I think that was the secret why we played quite good over 10 days.
So that was the flow state you've
Yeah.
been into in the stadium. Have you ever tried or achieved getting into the flow state on
On
stage?
stage? I'm still looking for that because that's quite different, yeah? Because when I started, and still I am, very oftentimes out of my comfort zone on stage when I give keynotes, because if you put me now right back on that court, I'm in my comfort zone because I know how to serve, still know how to pass, I think, even though I didn't play anything since a couple of years. But being on stage, telling not my story, but the learnings out of high professional sport, what also teams can learn or corporates can learn out of professional sports, that's still something where I need to find my own identity, but it's getting better and better. But of course, now you have to prove something new, and that's something very, very special. It's completely different than going down there and try to jump surf what I did 5 million times in my life. So that's a new challenge, but challenge accepted. It's still something new every time.
Yeah, I find this extremely interesting, this flow state that you mentioned. I want to know for myself now. I want to get the secret of this. If there is not a situation where I'm injured and there are no expectations, because this is the expectations that usually put the pressure, where we put the pressure ourselves and then we don't perform. Is there a way how to create this flow state without being injured, without like external factors affecting it, but actually like creating it on your own, some sort of exercises or thinking or affirmations or breathing techniques? Is there something like this?
What I think what is very important in general is something called radical acceptance, and radical acceptance is something that you stop fighting against things what's out of your control. If you accept that you made a mistake, if you accept that you lost focus on the stage, if you accept that I'm not a professional, whatever it is, if you accept that failure is a part of the process getting better, then you start focusing on things you can control. And I think that's more or less the most important skill I have, that I'm pretty good in accepting the things how they are, accepting reality. Because, for instance, reality didn't care if I like to be injured or not, because it was reality. So I started when I was 23, when I had my first major injury, this process of accepting the reality and really start very early to move in a direction with things I can control. And in life now, generally it's the same, if you're very bad in accepting the reality, you always try to fight against something you cannot change. And I think that costs a lot of energy. Energy is part of our resources, and I think we need to be very good with our resources we have, time, energy, whatever, focus. And I think that's a very important skill, that you try to get better in the radical acceptance of reality, and try to put your focus on what can I change, even though the situation is bullshit, and that's when also the flow comes into reality, because when you start to accept things, the flow is easier to get. I cannot tell you the secret. If somebody of us knows the secret of the flow, we would be millionaires, but we don't. But that's the first step of getting the flow, to accept the reality.
I just want to share a little bit, because I am a very stubborn and childish person. I used to be. before I started my business, I was like a very maximalistic. It's either black or white. There is nothing in between, and it has to be like this, the way I believe. And the entrepreneurship changed so much for me. And in the last few months, I've been feeling the most balanced and the happiest that I've ever been in my entire life. And what you just described right now, accepting the failures, that like whatever you're doing, you will always experience failures. And basically what you need to do is get fast through them. Like imagine if you need 100 no's or 100 failures to get to that perfect win or perfect yes, how quickly you would get through them. And this was a huge unlock for me. I'm very happy what you're sharing right now because I'm on that path. I was never like you. I don't know. I wonder how it is for you because you seem to be always a very balanced and very calm and confident person.
That's true.
I can only underline what Clemens said. Like, just accept what you can't control. Like, I do not feel anger or be mad at something which I can't control, whatever the situation is. But everything else, take ownership. But what I was actually wondering about, I just recently read actually on LinkedIn that you do not see yourself or describe yourself as a keynote speaker. So you are not a keynote speaker solely at the moment. You are actually a multiple business owner. You build brands and businesses. So how was this transition going from being a pro sports athlete turning or transitioning into an entrepreneur?
You know, I think every one of us has multiple roles. You know, I'm not a big fan of having only one role in my life because back then as an athlete, I would say I was an expert in high professional sports. But right now, I'm not an expert in anything. I just have a lot of fun trying new stuff. And me and two friends of mine, one is Marc Janko and one is Conny Wilczynski, we founded the SPORTBOX 2016, starting organizing camps for kids, you know, making zero money, just to give something back, you know. And I would lie if I would say we are super, how do you say? Let's say it like this. In Austria, it's very difficult and very hard to make money with sports in business sides. It's very, very hard. We call ourselves, for example, Austria, the country of sports. That's bullshit. We are not. You know, if you see how important sport is, it's not important at all. It's a little bit skiing. It's a little bit tennis if Dominic Thiem was very successful. And it's soccer and everything else. It's not important. So it's very hard for us being exactly in the middle of sport and business. It's very hard to make money. So I would lie if I would say we are very successful. We're not. It's the reality. But all of us coming out of professional sports, you know, Marc was the former captain of the soccer national team. Conny was an absolutely handball legend and the expert in ORF when it comes to handball. We know how to deal with failure, like Lika said, you know, and that's what I would like to do, and I already do it with my keynotes, for example, because most of the times when I have some bookings, they say, can you please come and tell us about the stories about Olympic Games and World Champs and what you won and the titles and the trophies and blah, and it bores me so much. So for me, it's much better to show the people that one thing is very, very important in our life, to be in peace with failure, because we all fail, right? You failed in your life, I guess. You failed. I failed so many
Quite
times.
a few times.
Yeah.
It was a big fail for me.
But every failure is a great learning. That's what I have to admit. Like most of failures.
Yes, and I think it's much more important to focus on the failures, what you can take out of it, than always to focus on the wins. But my point is that for me, it was so much better and still is better to set my ambitious goals so high that I might just fall short a bit and be called a failure, than to lower my expectations, to lower my goals so drastically just to reach them with ease. Only that I can call myself here in your podcast, I I've done everything. I'm super. I don't know. I only win. It's bullshit. So, and that's what I think is not only in sports, also in business life. If we set our goals very high and we, reach them, maybe only just a bit not, we still reached a lot. But if we always try to, get the low fruits hanging, then I think we cannot be very proud of ourselves at the end of the day. So that's why I think it's much more important to be okay with failure than always think I have to reach that or this.
Clemens, I don't understand how we've never talked about these things with you before, because I align with everything you're saying right now, and you're expressing yourself, like showing yourself from a completely different side that I didn't know. So I'm so happy that we are doing this today. And one of the things that I'm doing right now that I think helps me get more balance is every time something does not work out, I'm asking, what was I supposed to learn here? So this is like a trick that I am implementing in my life. Every time I'm like about to freak out, get upset, get depressed, get a tantrum, start screaming, complaining to Manuel, I'm like, okay, wait a second. What was I supposed to learn? And I swear, as my husband, I haven't thrown a tantrum in the last 3 months, I think.
That's something very good. But
That's an achievement.
Yeah, because I also know you a little bit now, quite some time, and that's a big achievement. But don't get me wrong, I think situations can be really shitty and can be bullshit, and we don't have to accept everything every failure we have to hug. No, I really hate losing. I always had, and I still hate losing. But we lose so much more than we win in our lives. And if we are not okay with losses, for example, Rafa Nadal, one of the greatest sportsmen in history, he said when he learned to treat the losses the same way than wins, he found out that the balance you just talked about. Because if you're only super happy when you win and you're very, very low with your energy and with your life, whatever it is, when you lose, then there is no balance. So I think this balance is very important on the court, but also in business life, that you have a good balance in your life.
I was just hearing in between the lines that you start with the purpose, you start with your why, and just try to figure out the how a little later. Maybe you can just teach us a sequence. How does this go step by step? So how do you come up with this purpose or project, idea, whatever it is, a new vision? So your why, and how could I figure out the how a little later?
That's a very good question. I think purpose is also a secret that is so important for us in private and in business life, because if we do the things in our life without purpose, how should we come over crisis if we don't see a purpose, if we don't have a why? I don't think it's possible, And for example, that's what you said, Lika, before, that in every loss there is something we can learn. For example, my injuries. They learned, without my injuries, I wouldn't be the person I am today, and I'm quite happy with how I am today, because it gave me so much purpose, always try to come back to the top teams in the world. And for many others, it didn't make any sense, but I felt this very, very strong purpose that I want to show myself what I'm capable of when times are really hard and times are tough. So this comeback stronger mentality, it only comes from my injuries and helps me now with the purpose I'm looking for in my life. And if we have a very strong purpose, we are more likely to take ownership, to overcome very difficult times. And we don't need to know the why exactly in the first moment, because I had no clue how I should come back after my fourth ACL ligament rupture. I had really no idea. But I had a very strong feeling I really would like to face that fight. And I figured out on the way, okay, this works for me, this doesn't work for me. It's always trial and error. I take the things that I think, okay, this can work out for me, and I let go the things that didn't work out for me. And I do the same now in business. I have no idea of anything, but I see if something works, if something feels good, and if the why is stronger than the how, I do it. And it's very easy to say, I know, and it's like, it's easier to say than to do. But if we don't start to do things, we never know.
So would you say rather start imperfect than waiting to be perfect and then just give it a go?
100%. 100%. I had no clue after I stopped playing what I should do. I have no clue. But you need to be a little bit lucky to meet the right people. I think networking is very important. To meet new people, to meet people that are, much smarter than you. And I think it's important to meet people that they're expert in anything. It doesn't have to be the same field where you are going, but just to meet people, to talk with them, how they do it, and then you figure out a way. And that one of the most expensive lies that you can tell yourself is, I start when I feel ready. When do we feel ready? When is the time perfect? There's one crisis after the other. So if we always wait for the right moment, wait for the right people. I think people it's very important to have a good team, but to wait for the right people or the right time it's the biggest lie you can tell yourself. Don't do that.
So for people who would like to transition from one chapter of their life, be it sports or corporate or whatever they're doing right now, into a different one, and I hear a lot of people say, I need to do a course, I need to do a certificate, I need to wait. You say you were doing a lot of networking, you were going with your gut feeling. Is there something that you could advise them based on your journey, how you managed to achieve this confidence or courage to do that?
Corona showed us very clearly that there was a time of 1 or 2 years where people had time to think what they should do in their lives. And there was so many transition in my network from people who had a very high paid job in some corporate, then starting to be, working in a gym because they felt more purpose there. They had just the time to think about it. I think to know what you're good at and to know where your purpose lies, I think it's the first major step you should take. And then if you find this, if you find your way, it's all about repetition. I started when I had my first keynote. I started in my apartment. I tracked myself. I went over 20 kilometers in my apartment just because I always tell myself the same speech again, that I can talk fluently on the stage. It's all about repetition. It's all about getting confidence, how you get confidence in the things that you have to do 1,000,000 times.
Wow.
I'm more confident in passing the ball if I do it 1,000,000 times. I'm more confident, and maybe you can tell your story if you are more confident if you are very well prepared on your stage. And this comes over repetition, I think.
Absolutely. I exactly do the same. I walked through my apartment, although I stay very calm on stage.
Yeah.
But I go through it loudly, not just reading it in my head, but talking it out loudly. It's repetition. It's like having many balls on the court, having many touches. Yeah, absolutely.
I think repetition is a very important thing if you want to be better than somebody else in your field. You have to do more repetitions than everybody else, for sure.
Absolutely.
That's the amazing work behind the scenes, behind the closed doors work that nobody sees, and then they think, you're just so good. But actually what you shared just now, so many kilometers inside of your apartment.
I always say people judge us based on this little performance, but no one sees the kilometers before we've gone through, we've rehearsed or scripted, whatever, for the keynote. No one sees that, but we get judged for the performance, right?
Yeah. And I think beach volleyball is very nice and a very nice example because people always see you only playing in big stadiums under the sun, or they see you when you're 3 weeks in Rio in Brazil having your trainings camp. But I don't see being away for 270 days at home, missing the 8th birthday of my daughter, not being at home, They don't see the rehabs. They don't see the trainings. It's only based on some very short performance. And that's what they talk about. Then, oh, he's bad or he's good. And it's the same with the being on stage a little bit, you know. You have just this 1 hour, 45 minutes, whatever it is. And if you have a good day, then you're great. If you have maybe a little bit worse day, then they judge you about this 45 minutes. So
what was pushing you every single day? Was it more the motivation or is it the discipline? Is it both?
You know, I really don't give a damn about motivation. Motivation is just a big lie, I think, even in sports. Of course, it helps you to get things done. But if you only do the hard things when you're motivated to, you're acting only out of coincidence, because then you feel motivated to. But what happens with the hard things to do when you're not motivated to? I think motivation is a big lie. I think vision is something quite important, to have a strong vision. There's a very nice saying, motivation gets us through the day, but vision gets us through life. I think that's quite meaningful. But the turning thing is self-discipline, self-leadership in sports and in business. I think I know discipline is the key factor if somebody is performing or if somebody is not performing. It's the way how you treat yourself. It's the way how you talk with yourself under pressure. It's the way what you focus on when the things get tough. If everything is easy, everybody can perform with ease. But what happens if the pressure is high, you know? And I think self-discipline, self-leadership is the key for being successful or not successful.
Is there a framework for people working in corporates? So you've learned all that in pro sports, but what could people in corporates learn from you?
You know, I'm booked, for example, quite often for team buildings. And it's very nice, and it's always fun, and we have a good time, but nothing changes.
It doesn't sound like fun.
No, I really love it.
It's fun.
I really love it, you know. But nothing changes if I don't change. So a successful team is always the sum of the self-leadership of all the individuals. So if I want to be successful in the team, I have to start with myself. So it's always about the first step that I take. How do I talk with my colleagues in my office when I have a bad day? I always say focus more on the things where you don't need a talent for. And I don't need a talent to be friendly. I don't need a talent to say, hey, good morning, how are you? I don't need a talent to be on time. I don't need a talent to be helpful. Zero talent. And if we start focusing on those easy things first, there's a lot things going on already. And then we can start to focus on, okay, how is our communication? How is the respect to each other? Whatever it is, the most important stuff. But if everybody starts to focus on things we need zero talent, there's a lot already positive happening in teams.
You mentioned that you wouldn't call yourself a keynote speaker, although this is pretty much one of the only things that we see on LinkedIn that you do. Why is that?
I had last week I had a post which had a lot of comments because of that. Because I just asked myself, why is it that everybody is now a keynote speaker? And there is no rule, you know? You can be a keynote speaker after your first speech. There is no rule. But I think it's important that not everybody who has had a great story has something to tell if he has not the skills or she has not the skills for it. I think, and I see that very often in ex-pro athletes that want to be keynote speaker, that they go on stage and they tell 1 hour their biography. And the word I or me is 1 million times heard. And I think, and it's only my opinion, and don't get me wrong, it's not the reality, it's only my opinion, that the people that listen to you, they have always to be the more important part than your story. Your story is never that important as the people that want to learn something from you. And I see that very often that ex-athletes think they need to go on stage and tell, yeah, I was very good because I want that. And in that race, I made it. Like, for me, it's the wrong way, So I just ask myself, when are you a keynote speaker? How good you need to be a keynote speaker, because you know it by yourself. Corporates, they spend a lot of money that you come there and you tell a story. And if you go on stage and only tell your story, how great you were 10 years ago, there is nothing for the people that listen to you that can learn something out of it. I think it's very important that you think about what can the people learn from people that spend 30 years in high performance sports. And then you start to make your story.
We actually had a whole episode with Katrin where we were pretty much criticizing former athletes who are going into keynote speaking. And
I didn't hear that episode. I need to hear that.
Yeah.
You talk about me?
No,
A little bit. But we don't criticize you, but we
had Clemens.
a couple of times. And what we were saying was that many think that it's enough to just say, I'm a motivational speaker, an inspirational speaker. And we were saying, okay, but those things fade so much. Your story can definitely inspire, and somebody will go like, okay, on Monday I will start, and then on Monday they will not start.
No.
And I wonder how you see this. And what we were proposing is always having some sort of framework, something that you can teach very actionable and practical, that a team can take and implement in their team the next day. So something like a real step by step. So how do you see that?
It's very difficult, and I'm far away from a good speaker, far away, really. I'm still progressing, but I take progression over perfection. For example, I'm still on my way and I'm so far away to be a good speaker. And it's very difficult to inspire people or to motivate people in 40 minutes to change their way of thinking. It's almost impossible. It's more possible if you can, having a workshop or being there for 2 days or talk with them in person. But being on stage on a 40 minutes keynote, it's very difficult. What I like to do is always ask questions even though I'm on the stage, because for myself, I really don't like it if I'm sitting there for 40 minutes and there's only 40 minutes monologue talking about themselves. I always try to implement the people sitting there, starting to think, okay, what is he what is he saying now? Maybe that also works for me. So more or less of an interactive part. That's very important for me because I like it by myself when I'm somewhere and I'm one of them, And not too many points, because people cannot remember 8 points where you say, oh, you need to do this. So only very few, but with a very high quality. And with the feeling of getting them some goosebumps, because how is that saying? People never forget how you let them feel, but they forget what you said. So I think you can do a lot of things over emotions and not so much over some story you had 10 years ago.
Absolutely. It's about inspiring them and putting them on competitive advantage.
Yeah, that's the point.
And you actually offered the framework in the last episode, yeah?
Yeah. And I wonder, when you are on stages or when you give workshops in the corporates, do you have some sort of proprietary framework that you've developed that you teach them? I remember when we were working together on your brand, we had a few, like the 12-second rule. I love that so much. It's so unique, like it's an amazing IP. So what is it that you developed? How did you develop it? How can others take their experience and journey and also package it into something that they can teach in the corporates and get paid well for that?
Yeah, the 12-second rule is actually something very special. 12-second rule is that because we only have 12 seconds between balls on beach volleyball, And that's not a lot of time where you fight, where you discuss over the next point, where you discuss why you made the mistake. So you need to find a way within these 12 seconds where it's not against each other, but with each other for the better cause, for winning the game, for whatever it is. And in corporates, it's more or less the same, because I think we would be able to manage every fight if we would have enough time. if I can sit back, have my mobile phone, and now I will write back in 1 hour, or I will write the email the next day. When the emotions are gone, I think it's very easy to handle fights, and it's very tough if you don't have the time. So that's one similarity I try to bring in corporates, how we can focus on a very good way of talking with each other when the pressure is high, when we don't have enough time, when we, for example, don't like each other, but you always have, some base where you don't get under it in the communication. For example, Alex and me and I, we were fighting a lot, but we managed to be very good at the very high competitions like Olympic Games or World Champs or European Champs, because we knew when the pressure is high how we communicate. So communication is a very big part of workshops and keynotes, and of course how we deal or how we give feedback. It's, feedback is breakfast for champions, we say. It's very important, not only to get feedback, but how we should give feedback. And it was a very big learning coming out of professional sports, where I had over 30 years, 2 practices a day, where everything I did was, I get feedback from, for example, from the ball coach, from my partner, from the physio, from the doctor, from the guy who made statistics, from everybody. And it was very little time, it was very good feedback. It was always, look, you did that wrong. Look, you suck here. You can get better in this, whatever it is. But they gave me feedback because they wanted me to get better. And that's the major part. We need people in our team with a growth mindset, that their goal is to make you better. And this also works in a corporate. If I'm in a team and I really want to be that the team is successful, I start with myself, giving on a good way people feedback, or asking for feedback, And when I came from sports and I asked the people, how many times you have talks about feedback, how many times you give feedback, they say, 1 time a year. This has no drive. There is no drive when you have 1 time in the year the chance to give and to get feedback. There's no drive. So that's a very important point for me, to tell the people how they should give feedback, asking for feedback every day. And if it's only 2 or 3 minutes, I think that's something that's where your team is performing in a very short time much, much better.
There's certain tools and frameworks or approaches from academia how to give feedback, for instance, like the feedback burger, or just say, I felt like this, or I observed. Like, what do you suggest people how to approach feedback, how to give and take feedback?
In a very honest way. I'm not a big fan of the sandwich method, like where you say, the critical feedback first, and then you stop with the more positive things. I think it's very important to feedback the attitude and not the person. It should be not the same thing. Because if Lika, for example, if I say, I'm so mad at you because you always come late.
That wouldn't be wrong.
Yes.
That's what Lika is known for.
So, what I did wrong, I said always. That's a lie. You're not always wrong. And I said you. But if I say you, Lika, for me, it's very important that we start on time, because we have our focus now for 1 hour. And the team would, perform much better if everybody is on time. And please try to be on time the next time. Then I don't feedback you as a person, but more or less your attitude, how you should focus or how you should handle your time. And I think if you do it with a lot of repetition and learn, of course that's also a repetition thing and learning thing, then it's very easy to give also critical feedback, because the people are more willing to accept that. If you always say, you do that wrong and that's bullshit and blah, blah, then people stop to listen to you. I think that's very important for being successful in a team, to give and get feedback on a daily basis.
And when you were transitioning into keynote speaking and into giving workshops in the corporates, how did you know what to talk about, what to offer them? How did you know what they would want to see?
I didn't.
You didn't?
And I still don't. No, it's
Trial and error.
Yeah, trial and error. Of course, you have a little bit of a feeling that could be interesting, but you always think of your bubble. Ooh, that will be interesting for me. So I tried that. And if I think back now, 4 years ago, it was a disaster, but it still was okay for them. But thinking back now, it was really not very good what I offered. But I wanted to start, so I started imperfect, like what we said before. Right now, I think I'm far away from being very good, but it's a progression, it's a way. And getting the feedback, I always ask my clients to give me feedback, like honest feedback. And this is the way I'm learning the most out of it. If I get the feedback, that was good, but this part was something we didn't understand very good or whatever it is. So I always try to adjust from time to time. And if you see that there's the way to being better is a process, and like we said before, failure is part of the process, then it's okay with me.
And I feel I learned today an additional step in the process is asking for feedback intentionally, because I never do that. People usually tell me that everything is so excellent, so I believe that everything I do is excellent. I'm joking. But it's really, people don't offer usually critical, real feedback. They don't give you an opportunity to learn and improve. So you need to ask it yourself if your goal is self-development and improvement.
Just think about if you work in a team and you go to your boss and you ask him, hey, do you have like 5 minutes for me? Because I really would like to have your feedback on that and that matter. You think that's something positive or negative for him or her? Of course, something positive. So asking for feedback is always something positive because you seem to care a lot, And people are a little bit afraid of this. And I think I don't understand it because you show your intention to get better. And if somebody wants to get better every day, that's something very positive. Can't be negative.
And you can always decide if you take this feedback or not. But people are also afraid to get critical feedback and can't deal with it, right?
I mean, of course, there's bullshit feedback, But like I told my daughter, if she, for example, because now it's the world champs in soccer, and she's now 12, there is a lot of things going on, and of course a lot of bullshit also going on in her class or in her school. And I told her, look, because she's a Yamal fan, So if Yamal would offer you a jersey, would you take it or not? And she said, of course I would take it. And if, for example, if she hates Ronaldo and Ronaldo is offering her a jersey, would you take it or not? No, I wouldn't take it. And that's the same with bullshit feedback. If it's really doesn't mean anything for you, then don't take it. Don't take that jersey. Don't get it on. But if you think, okay, that's some critical points, but there is something where I can work with, take it on it. You only get better if you take critical feedback in a positive way. But there's some feedback is just bullshit, and then you leave it.
Clemens, you have done the transition, and you mentioned to us that it was not so easy when you were deciding on your positioning and choosing the logo and the branding before we started working together. What was the difference when you were doing it yourself, and why was it taking it so long? And what changed when you decided to do it properly, so to say? And what results do you see from this now?
It was very difficult because it was more or less a new life for me. I left my old identity on the court, so I had to find a new identity, and that's why so many ex-athletes also have this identity crisis, because they're 100% in their identity with professional sports, and then they start a new life. That's something quite difficult, I have to say. And with my new identity, I had to find my way, and like we said before, I was one of them. I was always waiting to be the perfect logo, or maybe the color was not the right one, or maybe the fonts were not the right one. So I left a lot of time there, I always was waiting for the right things and whatever it is. So then starting working with you, you were pushing quite hard, and you said, where is my email? Where is my logo? Come on, I need this in the next 2 days. It helped me a lot to get on track, I have to say. So I think it's very important if you start something new, that you have kind of mentors around you that have a little bit your back, that push you a little bit in the right direction, because if it's something new, you're always a little bit uncertain. I'll wait a little bit longer, or whatever it is. I think you need people that really have your back and push you in the right direction, and you did that for me, and that's why I'm very grateful, because it happened very fast, everything. And I had the website, I had the logo, I had everything, and then it was very easy for me to go outside and show the world what I'm doing now. So mentoring people that have your back, that want the best out of you, I think it's very important. Yeah.
You also underestimated your online presence in terms of social media, especially LinkedIn. You're quite active at the moment, and you run your main acquisition through this platform. How does this go?
That was also a learning. To know that my clients are not so much on Instagram, for example, than much more on LinkedIn. And from our company, we took a very good, very long LinkedIn workshop. That was very good. He told us everything, what's important for us. And now my acquisition is more or less almost only over LinkedIn. It makes a lot of fun, actually. The time I spent years ago on Insta, now I spend on LinkedIn, because it's something new now, and I see that if you post something which leads to a lot of discussions, it works very good on LinkedIn, and it doesn't work on Instagram, for example. So that's also something very interesting I had to see.
Yeah, so what is your acquisition strategy exactly on LinkedIn? Is it just posting content, something like provocative, contrarian, that leads to discussion, or is there more of a strategy?
No, of course it's more. It's a lot of commentating other posts. It's a lot of research. Where are the people you want to reach out? Like HR or whatever it is. So it's a lot of research back from the posts, and commentating and being part of the discussion of important topics. So it's quite some time where you have to be on LinkedIn to be able to be known more, whatever it is. But I like to be provocative a little bit on LinkedIn. It works very good, and I like to discuss with people. And my feeling is that on LinkedIn the respect is a little bit higher than on Insta, for example, So the discussions are more respectful, and I like that.
How much time per day do you spend on LinkedIn engaging with other people's content?
I wouldn't say I do it on a daily basis, but I have my topics. For example, Mondays, more or less, are for sure 5 hours only on LinkedIn.
5 hours commenting and doing the discussion.
Doing research, adjusting my posts for the next weeks, finding people, whatever it is. So I think it's very important. If for me, it only works when I know, okay, now I have this block for 5 hours. It doesn't work if I say 1 hour here and 1 hour there. I'm not the right person for that. So I really need to block my time being only on LinkedIn.
So you block it every single Monday. It's in your calendar, so you know it's coming. You schedule your appointments around that.
Yeah.
I think this is what many people actually miss, why they cannot stay consistent, because they just think it happens somehow, but you have to schedule it as a very important activity in your weekly business.
Yeah, because it's only not my account, it's also the SPORTBOX account where we try now to grow. It's very small, but we try to grow. And I really think if you want to be successful, you need focus. And for me, that's focus that I know. I have 5 hours now, only that. If there is a very important call, yes, I take it, but I don't answer any emails. I don't do anything else. I only focus and concentrate on LinkedIn. Find my people, maybe commenting that post, making ideas for new posts, whatever it is. For me, it only works that way.
You're coaching people for their keynotes, and you're also coaching young athletes on the way to Olympics. So what are you building next?
It's not something that I build on purpose, but I have to say I was a little bit proud when I got in contact with a beautiful person that asked me for help to build a keynote, because I still feel myself I need help to build my keynotes, and somebody else is asking me to help her. That was something I'm still very proud of, and it makes a lot of fun because I can tell her all the failures I did. So she has already that step more that I had when I started. So that's something, it makes a lot of fun for me, I have to say. And the younger athletes is also something where I think I can have a little bit of an impact, because first of all, you know, I founded my own club for kids playing beach volleyball, and I organized a lot of kids camps in whole Austria. So I really like to work with young people, and if there is, for example, now a person that really has a very big vision that she wants to go to the Olympics in couple of years, it makes a lot of fun and has a lot of purpose for me to work with those kind of people, because you don't meet a lot of people nowadays with big visions, you know, really big visions, and I really like that. And the younger they are, the more unafraid they are, and I really like that. You know, it's like a blank piece of paper, and it's something that gives me a lot of energy, a lot of purpose, and I would never call that work, for example, never ever, because working with people, asking for me to help them, it's such a great honor, and I would never in 10 million years would call that ever a job, ever. Yeah.
There's so much inspiration in everything you say.
No, but Lika, I think you said the same before, right? Your master classes, for example. Mm-hmm. Sorry that I interrupt you.
Okay.
If you have that strong purpose, you don't feel to work, right? Or am I wrong?
Absolutely. And I agree with you so much when you say that you don't meet so many people with big dreams. This is what I'm experiencing. Everyone is being extremely average and ordinary and reasonable. Like, yeah, I cannot dream that. I cannot have that goal because it's not reasonable. And I am pushing everyone to be delusional, like naive and crazy and stupid. I think today I had even a post coming out about it, because I want more people who have fire in their eyes, who have spark in their heart, and who are going for the crazy thing. Maybe they're not getting paid right now, which also was amazing what you said about SPORTBOX, that when you were starting out, you weren't paid. And now you have so many different ventures and projects that are part of SPORTBOX, building a green box, a new sports hall. These kind of stories is something that people need to hear, but they have to be honest, where people honestly say, I weren't paid. So we know that with a lot of work and staying consistent over years, whatever delusional dream it is, we will be able to achieve it. And I wish more people had the courage and the craziness to set such goals.
Yeah, you know, one very big part I found out is that so many people they have goals, but they are so uncertain. It's so much uncertainty. But for me, uncertainty should never be, how do you say?
A showstopper.
Yeah.
It should not hold you back.
What's the English word on Ausrede?
Excuse.
Yeah.
Uncertainty should never be an excuse for inaction. And so many people are don't take action or ownership because out of uncertainty. But I had so much uncertainty and still have so much uncertainty in my life. If I would never start doing things out of uncertainty again, then I would ask myself, can I be proud about myself? No, I can't. So uncertainty should never be an excuse for inaction. Never, ever.
I have and still have uncertainty in my life throughout. I quit science. I went into marketing without proper university education that's so expected in Austria. Then I went and started my own business without having a network, any savings, or even the proper language in the country. But I was so uncertain every single day, and I'm still uncertain, like, oh my God, what's the next month going to bring, and it's actually a very unsettling feeling. I feel uncomfortable every single day. Sometimes I let it overwhelm me, sometimes I push it away, and the only thing that keeps me going is the belief that it has to work out. It has to, because if it doesn't work out for me, for everything that I'm doing, it won't work out for anyone. And that's the only thing that keeps me going when I'm so overwhelmed with uncertainty. How does it feel for you? You're also an entrepreneur.
Whenever you step out of your comfort zone, there is uncertainty. Like, I feel it every single day, but it doesn't bother me. Like, you just get used to it after a while and deal with it. And it's also pushing you further, but just keep going. And uncertainty should never, ever just keep you small.
I think that's something very important that you said now. Because I don't think it doesn't bother you. I think it bothers you a little bit because it bothers me stepping out of my comfort zone. But it should be okay going out of the comfort zone. And there's one very big thing. So many people are overthinking then, you know. I was a very big overthinker. But I learned to stop thinking. It sounds a little bit weird. But, you know, I don't get out of bed and think, ooh, I have to brush my teeth. I just do it. You don't think about you have to do it. So it's getting a routine. And I think it's very important to get out of our comfort zone should be also a routine for us. Because we all know out of the comfort zone, magic happens, the growth zone, the learning zone. And if we make it a routine to go out of our comfort zone, we don't think again, ooh, we are out of our comfort zone. It's just a thing that we do without thinking. And I think that's very important to not overthink crisis, to not overthink times where we don't feel very comfortable. It's just the way it is, and we don't overthink it. Make it a routine to be uncomfortable.
So it's like when you train in volleyball, you gain muscle memory in doing the same things over and over and over again. It becomes a routine. And you're saying that there is a way, and maybe you can share how you achieve that to get used to stepping out of your comfort zone all the time.
I think it's very easy because everybody knows that you know, being in the comfort zone there's nothing wrong with it because we feel safe, and there's nothing wrong with feeling safe. But if there's one thing I learned in almost 30 years being a professional athlete, that feeling safe doesn't make you better, not 1%. When do you get better? When you're out of your comfort zone, when you don't feel safe, when you have to try, when it have to work, like you said. If there is no plan B, when you have that drive, that there is only the way that you go and nothing else left and right, then you get better. You don't get better if you feel safe. And in business, it's the same. You don't get better if you sit in your chair and think, now it's nice. It's perfect. It's nice. But if you want to get better, you have to be okay with feeling uncomfortable. There's no way around it. That's the thing. People always want to have shortcuts, but there is no shortcut. Either you feel safe and fine, or you feel uncomfortable and you get better. You have to choose. If you want to feel safe and fine, you know that you're not going to get better. You only get better if you're uncomfortable. And you have to deal and to learn to deal better with uncomfortable times. That's the secret, which is no secret.
That's where you grow and get successful.
Yeah,
that was, I would say, the perfect ending for our episode
amazing.
Today.
And if I may summarize my biggest learning for today, because in every single episode, I learned so much. Like, I'm so thankful we are doing this because I grow as a person. And my biggest takeaway that you always tell us after every training, what are your 3 takeaways? You cannot do more. So my biggest, and then you'll do your biggest. Mine is taking ownership of everything and a radical responsibility for everything in your life, asking for feedback intentionally, and making being outside of your comfort zone a routine.
That's 4 points, even better than 3. 3, okay.
3, I agree. Just agree. That was the main points we were talking about. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Clemens, for being
Thank
with us.
you so much.
Thank you
Thank
to
you.
our listeners for being with us. See you next time at Brand on Tour. Bye.
Bye.